Meet the Snapchat generation.
Happy Monday. Good morning.
It's the most connected generation, changing the future of communication. 75% of Snapchatters say that vertical video is more personal and immersive. And every day, over 180 million Snapchat users interact with augmented reality. You can meet the Snapchat generation and learn more about them by visiting snapchat.com/generation.
It's a drunken soiree in the within. Chris and Stu present Hardcore Listing, the podcast. Hello and welcome to Hardcore Listing Podcast. I'm one half of your presenting duo. I'm the best one. I'm Stu Whiffin, and sitting opposite me via the means of Zoom is...
the worst one.
Yeah.
That's what you want to hear, isn't it, Stu?
Absolutely.
On a Saturday morning. Chris Glasson. Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. I've been better than you. You've been poorly, right?
Oh, yeah. 2 days ago, I was working from the floor under my duvet, talking to three solicitors, and I bet they had no idea what my situation was. But yeah, my back went into spasm for a few days, which was awful. I'm not sure the listeners care, though. They've never really asked about my welfare before, Stu, so I'm not sure if they're gonna start now. But yeah, I'm all better.
Okay, well, before we introduce today's guest, just quickly want to thank 76 for producing this podcast, and we should also thank our sponsors, which are Christopher,
Charles, and lovebeer.co.uk. And in these crazy times, if you go onto lovebeer.co.uk, you can also get a 15% off any order. And he will deliver that lovely to your doorstep. Yes, it's LBHCLP. But I'm sure, wonderful, as Charles has said, many of you have already subscribed and purchased from that. So thank you so much. And our other lovely sponsor is...
It's Luke Van Boom of Bang Boom Creative. And yeah, so big thanks to both Love Beer and Bang Boom Creative. Go and give them a follow on the socials and support these flourishing independent businesses. Right, let's get on it. Chris, I'll leave you to introduce today's guest.
Today we have the lovely Emma Sayle with us. Hello, Emma.
Hi. Hi, guys.
Queen Kitten of the Killing Kittens Empire, I'd probably call it now.
Nice. I like that word, empire.
Emma, thanks so much for coming on. I've actually seen, I've had adverts come through for your podcast, and I'm famously, even though I've recorded thousands, rarely ever listen to podcasts. And I saw an advert come through for your podcast, which hopefully we'll get to chat about. And I was like, that'd be a great guest. And Stu, about 2 or 3 days later, went, I've been contacted by Emma Sayle, Killing Kittens. And I went, this is the stars have aligned. So, yeah, thanks very much. We obviously invite you on to discuss the top 5 of your choice. So I'll let you tell us what that is about at the moment. But yeah,
and I think it's important as well that before we say what the top 5 is, just to give listeners that might not know what Killing Kittens is a bit of backstory as to what it is.
Yeah, sure.
So it was founded in 2005. So it's been 15 years. It's a online and offline platform and world that basically was built for women to explore their sexuality in a safe environment, non-judgmental world. And it's just turned into a massive sort of global community and is now considered a tech business. So what started as offline mass parties, which a lot of people know, the tip of the iceberg of Killing Kittens in the Daily Mail headlines is the orgies, and then sort of the iceberg's risen up, and that's a huge online sort of dating social network and loads of educational workshops side to it. So yeah, it's a crazy world with sort of that sex positive, explore your sexuality without being judged world, which was very female focused, but it's sort of all inclusive now, but with very much sort of women driving it. So yeah, that's it really in a nutshell.
Well, so it has exploded into a tech company.
Yeah, so yeah, most of our revenue comes from the online virtual world, digital world, KK, which is how we're now surviving in the current climate. So the online is about 160,000 members across the world, and they use it. Sort of think Bumble meets Facebook when it comes to the tech side of it, with some Eventbrite thrown in there for the offline event. So it's kind of loads of things going on. Big world.
What made you sort of in 2005 go, right, let's do it?
3 days of no sleep in Ibiza. It's where it kind of. Do you know what? It was this sort of fire in my belly that just was constantly being stoked about the world just being very imbalanced, and it came to women and men, and I was constantly seeing. And I grew up in the Middle East, so I saw the way women were treated there. But I was at boarding school back in England, so where I, was told that girls could be whatever we wanted to be. So it just wasn't happening in real life. And then sort of Sex and the City came out, and at the same time I saw just the way men could sleep around and do whatever they wanted, and they were high-fived and they were legends. And women, girls had one night stand and they were sluts and slut shamed, and boys would go, oh, I've met this really nice girl, but she's not girlfriend material. And you'd be like, why not? Well, she slept with loads of people. And it was just this sort of, and I was doing the PR actually for the Erotica show, helping there. And again, saw this back in 2004, just saw that everything in the adult sex world were claiming to be female friendly, but it was all run by men, owned by men, and it was just sort of very much the patriarch controlling sex world, claiming to be female friendly.
Did it seem like they were using that as a marketing tool as opposed to it actually being female friendly?
Yeah, it was still, that's the thing, because they needed to, because it was at that time when the media was saying there was this female sexual revolution happening, and Summers hit the high streets and Lalo sex toys went into Selfridges. And so I was getting a lot of sort of clients or people coming to me asking how they could make their brands more female friendly. And it was all just sort of, lip talk kind of thing with and I just thought they're all, wanting to be seen to be female friendly, but actually what are they really doing? And what are they really looking at the difference between sex and what sex is to women? Because it's always just been known as what it is to men. And even now, age 42, and having done what I do now for like 15 years, if you said to me sex, I'd immediately go, it's a man's penis in a vagina and the end point is the man coming. You know what I mean? Kind of that ingrained kind of, it's how we've grown up and what we've believed, been told to believe that's what sex is all about. So it's just sort of changing that conversation, and which is what we've been trying to do.
And do you do that within your workshops and stuff like that? Yeah,
so all the workshops and just talk and having talks and debates and just trying to kind of normalize the conversation so that actually it's, it's sex, we're animals. It shouldn't be some seedy thing that's really embarrassing. So,
Well, go on, Stu.
Okay, well, it's incredible what you've set up and developed and built, and I guess that's going to have some bearing on what you've chosen for your top 5 today. So, do you want to introduce what your top 5 is going to be, please, Emma?
The top 5 I've chosen are, given everything I do is to do with women, empowering women, are badass women from not necessarily alive, but just 5 badass women that have really, done some seriously cool stuff.
Wicked. Was there any other considerations for topics, or did you just go straight to that?
Do you know what? It was just immediately, I use the word badass a lot. and I'm always looking at, I'm really just interested in people and humans and men as well, as in who's doing what and history, and I love my history. So no, I mean, there was other, it was the one that was like, right, can I do this? I said to our PRs when she said, right, 5 this, I went this. So it was really...
Are yours in order of, from, is number 5 your not as favourite, and your number 1 the absolute, your total hero?
Funny enough, I've got the way I've I wrote some bits down earlier, and actually the number 1 is my absolute number. She's the only person that if I met in real life, because celebrities, blah, 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 what I mean? I'm not impressed, unless someone's a decent human being. Yeah. I don't care who they are and what they do. But she's the only person that if I met in real life, I literally would sob uncontrollably.
Oh, that's amazing.
Okay, well, number 5.
Number 5, Jacinda Arden. Is that how you pronounce her surname? Yeah, New Zealand.
Arden, yeah.
Jacinda Arden, yeah. She's just, ever since she came into sort of my orbit of knowing her existence, just went straight away. You know, she was pregnant and having a baby while being Prime Minister. And the youngest Prime Minister, female. And New Zealand, you know, if you know New Zealand, it's a pretty male world. The New Zealand men are pretty Neanderthal, and they'll admit that as well. You know, and it's got one of the highest domestic abuse numbers in the world. And so to have the youngest one to come in and be respected and be made Prime Minister, and a female. Yeah. And when you look at what she's had to deal with in a very short space of time, from, you know, you couldn't get it in a Hollywood blockbuster, really. It's like mass shooting, you know, earthquake, volcano, global pandemic. I mean, it's sort of, you know, just sort of right. And having the baby at the same time. And I've got 3 kids under 5. And, you know, dealing with one baby is
enough.
It is enough. And mentally as well, you're all over the place. So was it all that? Yeah.
Was it the mass shootings that kind of put her on your radar? Because it was for me.
Yeah, big time. And
I remember seeing her addressing.
Yeah, just because it's the empathy, isn't it? I think that's what a lot of leaders, and especially male leaders, and this isn't a man bashing thing, it's women are much more empathetic. You know, they do have it, and I think that makes a good leader, because you want people to relate to you, and you want to be aware of everyone's different emotions and psychologies, and not just running from your ego and power. And it was just, you could see it in the way she spoke and got very emotional, and the way she was instantly hugging everyone, you know, wearing a burqa, out there hugging everyone. And also within 7 days, she went sod this and banned, you know, semi-automatic weapons.
Yeah.
You know, you don't see that happening in America.
No. That's because I think there's a little bit of ego in the one that runs America. I'm not sure. I think there might be a little bit.
probably some huge financial interest as well. But
yeah, exactly.
I mean, we should say that we're recording this in lockdown, and we're recording this just a few days after the awful stuff that's been happening in America. And am I right in saying that Donald Trump did? Please tell me this was a meme, and he didn't actually say.
No, he said it.
When they start looting, we start shooting.
I saw the original tweet. He actually wrote it in a tweet.
I mean, fuck me.
I've got to be honest, about 3 weeks ago, when he said that thing about trying to inject light into the body, he said light kills COVID. So I've been talking to our top guys about how we can get light in our body. I can't believe a human being is saying that, and I've just had to. I can't listen to him anymore. It's too surreal.
It's
too surreal. Yeah.
And it's strange when like my daughters ask me, like, why is he saying that? And I'm like, I have no answers. I've no idea other than the guy's a moron. Like, I can't explain why he's saying these things. And like my kids are like, that's strange, isn't it? I'm like, yeah, it's really strange. That's not what a leader should do.
No, absolutely not. But that what Arden did in terms of banning semi-automatic rifles, it shows a conviction to just actually take action.
Well, that's the thing. There's so much talk, isn't there?
Yeah.
And you know, we can't do it. We can't. You go, well, you can actually. You know. You can.
I might be disliked for it by some, but actually, I think for the greater good, it's the better option.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, it was definitely then like seeing her response to that just I remember saying to my wife at the time, I was just going like, this woman's incredible. She just literally it shone through the screen. It really did. You just think that's what you want when you know, when the kind of shit hits the fan, you want somebody like that with empathy that you just think, all right, you know, that's what she should be doing. She should be hugging them people. It's like...
Yeah, and wearing the burqa out of respect. You know what I mean?
Incredible.
That's the thing. You've got one country doing that. She's wearing that. The other country we've just been speaking about, they're banning burqas. And, it's respect, isn't it? And understanding, and that, you know, sort of amongst all our countries, totally mixed cultures and religions and stuff. It's just, you know, as long as no one's hurting anyone, then you just let everyone be who they are.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. Number 4.
Joan of Arc. You probably guessed that one.
Well, I mean, she's incredible.
That's the thing. She was 13. Basically, was 13 when she started having peasant girl visions and dreams, and believed she was sent by God to save France from the English. There's probably a lot of people out there having similar dreams, but not having them. And managed at age 16 as well. Managed to convince a court of basically taking vows of chastity that she didn't need to have to go into an arranged marriage, which obviously back then was pretty, a given. And then managed to get to see Charles VII, get into his court to convince him. And actually, he was convinced by she knew things that from these dreams that no one else knew. But along the way, she had built up an army, age 16, of followers who believed that she was the virgin saviour of France. I mean, that takes some doing, especially back then as a teenage girl.
I can't remember what I was doing at 16. It's hazy, but I don't think it's comparable. I mean, for any that's incredible. It's such a mad story, and I think when you pick historic characters, there's a few that in and around those centuries that just blow my mind, because I just think in such a brutal world where you could wrong foot, especially in terms of you're talking about things like religion. Yeah, and you can quickly find yourself without your head. It's just it's courageous, but beyond, there's being courageous, and there's having the wit and the intellect to be able to, and the charisma to be able to get everyone on board with what you're saying. That's as a 16-year-old girl.
There's a lot of people with ideas out there, but it's getting people to believe them. I mean, we've spoken about Trump. There's Boris. There's certain. They have a certain energy, that you do go, well, they're getting Boris, not so much at the moment, but what I mean? He managed, it's that convincing, isn't it? And the energy when they speak that you go, yeah, I believe them and I want to be part of it. That, there's a very few people that have it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in a good way, but
no,
have it.
Definitely not.
And I think Joan probably didn't have a huge media team of advisors and marketing and spin. I don't think there was any of that.
Exactly. But one interesting thing with Joan is that all the time, all the powerful men around Charles felt threatened by her and was saying, don't do it, and disagreeing with everything, and all the generals telling him not to listen to her, not to go into this battle. And in the end, he chose her, and they went in, and actually she was responsible for him being crowned, basically. But then she happened to fall off a horse in a battle and got taken by the English. And then Charles wouldn't step in and help her because he didn't want to be associated with a witch. So, it's only 20 years later that he grew some balls and decided to have another trial, which exonerated her. And then obviously she's remained the patron saint of France. But
that's an epic
at age 19, she was burnt for being a witch.
Tragic way.
Yeah.
Before we get on to the next one, should we talk a little bit about the podcast?
Yeah.
So, obviously, kind of seeing the business grow to where it's got. Why the decision to do a podcast, and how did you decide on the format for it? And
do you know what we've been basically it's been something ever since sort of podcasts came into existence. It was sort of, and it was the kind of same time have always been doing for a while, kind of the educational side of KK and the workshops and the talks. So there was always this sort of, there is the learning and interesting topics and a whole load of experts that we've used for all these things and events we've been doing. And it was, again, we've got a huge community, and amongst that community, everyone talks about it and talks about it very openly. And if we were if we want to get the conversation into the mainstream to be people more open when it comes to sex, then actually sort of a podcast is a good way to do it, because everyone and anyone can listen to it and it gets it out there. So we always wanted to do it, but I didn't want to do it. We didn't want to do it. And I, was like, well, I don't just want to be a host speaking to experts because that's just a bit dull. And just went, we need a format. And then some guys, a production company who I've known the guys ages, came, said, well, you should be doing a podcast. And we were thinking about format, and then I had another baby. I've had 3 and 5 years, and so it's kind of delayed. And then I've been doing lots of work with become good friends with Emma Kenny, ITV This Morning psychologist, and Harriet Minter, the host of the Badass Women show on Talk Radio, and gotten really well with them. And we've used them for talks and debates in KK. And it was sort of, well, actually, it'd be really good if there was 3 of us. And have a kind of thread going through all the podcasts, just us 3 and what we're up to personally, like Harriet's dating life and Emma's constant sex life, but then have some, rather than just have experts in it and experts from the adult sex world, to make it really mainstream and have celebs in, so it just becomes sort of a really kind of open, honest, funny chat about everything kind of post Me Too. And there's a bit, with always a bit of a female slant to it, but get lots of male guests in. So from Noel Clarke, the actor, to David Gower, cricketer. It's sort of, a real mix of, and real alpha males, or complete mix of them. So that the chat is very different, but very open when it comes to anything to do with dating and sex, but with some of our experts in the mix as well. So there's some sort of, what some of the episodes are really good. You can learn a lot. So yeah. And then you've got the ones that are sort of the celeb kind of chats, which is sort of, they're more inspiring in their journeys and their sort of personal sexual dating journeys. Yeah.
So is the podcast sort of date sensitive, Emma, or can people sort of drop in and out? And if you was to direct someone to an episode to start with, would you say go back to the beginning or drop in at any point?
It's not dates, because we've done the series. We basically did 1 a week so we've done the first series. I think there's 10 or 11. So they can all go back and drop into any of them. The first one, although I think it's down as number 2, is just the 3 of us. I think it's a Kittens world. So it's just the 3 of us just talking about, that's more about the KK and how it is now, how society is. And so that's probably a good starting point to set the scene of what we're all about.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think the format, what's always, regardless of the guests that you come on, I think the chemistry between you and the hosts and having that sort of natural dialogue, that's what's worked for us, Stu, isn't it? I think it's
definitely.
I think the great thing about podcasts is television is very much, you can't have any sort of, it's always very direct, everything's very planned what's being said a lot of the time, and you lose that sort of sense and thread of conversation, and you lose that human element to it. So I think you've done well in picking the format and who you have as the base 3 of you, and it's sort of like interweaving your lives in and out of it.
Yeah, and as my hubby listened to them all kind of before they launched, I had them all a soundbite, and he listened to them all out walking, and I hadn't realised it. He said it's awesome. He said, because I was just wanting to listen to the next one because I wanted to know what was the next continuation of Harriet's love life. So Harriet, literally without even thinking, that's the thread throughout the podcast. Although she's now got a boyfriend who's living with her in lockdown, so we'll have to switch it up for series 2.
Brilliant. Okay, number 3.
Another history one. Then it's 2 people that everyone will know. It's Tamar the Great, who was the first king or queen, but they didn't call it queen at the time, of Georgia, which was the big ancient kingdom that kind of ended up. And during she was made at age 18 by her dad. She had lots of brothers, but her dad, epic for the time, saw the drive and grit in her about wanting to expand the kingdom, so made her king over the brothers. She ruled for 29 years. And had this real kick-ass group of knights that turned into a massive army. Wow. But everything, it wasn't just her sort of taking over other land and other kingdoms. It were that loads of churches and cathedrals got built, the economy. It was basically the most successful. She was the most successful king ever of Georgia. Wow. In that time. So, yeah. seriously badass. Age 18 again.
I've got to be honest. I've not heard of her. That's that. Have you, Chris?
It's not. It didn't immediately leap to mind. Whether or not that's something I've looked at in the past. So yeah. I think we've learnt one there.
That sounds like you're dressing up the fact that you hadn't there, Chris.
What, total guesswork? No,
that was complete guesswork.
Tamar.
No, I think I have. No, you haven't.
Well, she divorced one good thing as well. She divorced her first husband, a Russian, and threw him out of the country. So I'll take in her badass state. Yeah.
That's a great way to be able to get someone out your hair, isn't it? Right, oh, by the way, I'm throwing you out of my country.
It's not going to work. I don't want to be. Yeah. That's a good version of meritocracy. That is when her father said, "You're the one."
Yeah.
You know, let's you, instead of thinking of like traditions, let's go on what values and who I think actually is going to take this place forward, and it's actually you. Again, that's good. That's brave on his behalf, I guess. But it's nice to see. It's just not.
So, yeah.
Have you got any history? Is there anyone historical that rings bells to you?
Yeah, I mean, there's. Do you know what? I was literally watching a documentary this morning, and it was about female drummers in bands.
Really?
And it was based around the woman Patty that was the drummer in Hull, Courtney Love.
Yeah.
And then on there was like this whole list of female drummers from like the Bangles, the Go-Go's, and right the way through to now. And they were all just saying how like drummers are kind of looked upon as they should be men. Like, you know, it was like, and they were saying how iconic Karen Carpenter was because she was the singer and the drummer in the Carpenters, and it's like, and there wasn't hardly any female drummers in existence then.
I went to an all-girls boarding school from 8 and started playing the trombone age 9 because no one in the school played the trombone, and I was like, if boys can play trombone, I'm playing the trombone. I played it till I was like 15, and then at 15 you're in that funny time when I was like, it's just not very feminine. I don't play it anymore. But yeah.
All the things I was great at as a kid, I think I got to about 15, and then I think hormones were kicking in, and I realised that actually the only thing that was brilliant was women. I was just like, these other hobbies that.
Yeah, I learned to play a whole different trombone at that point.
Can I throw in a historical member? If the next people are more modern day people,
the next two, 1 and 2, you'll know them. Yeah.
So my favourite, I went through a phase of pirates, and female pirates are they're just the best.
I need to
so really, because I can say one, Emma, and there's 15 to 20 that are worth reading about. And what I find so crazy about that is because if you think of whatever landscape we're in now, imagine trying to navigate the political landscape of piracy and being a swashbuckler. I just think that must be so crazy and dangerous, and you're on the wrong side of the law a lot of the time. And I think you can find yourself again with dead very quickly. And my favourite one, she was previously a noblewoman who was forced into marriage at 12, had 2 children, lost the first husband, second marriage was annulled, third marriage she'd found that the guy who treated her properly, she had 4 kids with him, and she was called the Lioness of Brittany because what happened was her husband was in charge of defending a certain portion of France, and he lost it to the English, and he was captured. But when France got him back, the ruler of France at the time thought that they bought him back too cheaply. And then, therefore, it meant that her husband must have been a traitor because why would we get him back for such little money? So what he did was he tricked Jean's husband, Oliver, to this tournament in France from Brittany. He went over there and then he went, oh, it's not really a tournament. I'm just going to hang you or behead you as being a traitor. And his wife, Jean, the Lioness of Brittany, was so upset by this that she defected and she went over to England. And between that and her own ship, she painted an armada of ships black and put their sails as red. And she named the main ship My Revenge. and then she just terrorised the French coastline for 13 years and just just run riot basically. And I just think that's incredible that she sort of she was able to again raise an armada to avenge her husband.
They say about a woman scorned, isn't it?
That's it, yeah. Hell hath no fury.
No, exactly. That's when it started. I was angry. So I'm still angry.
13 years later, and I'm still massacring the French for killing my husband. I mean, it's crazy. It's brutal. I must say. There's others that are more inspiring and whatnot. But something just sat out in my mind on that one. That I just
it's how they do it. That when you look at them and put them in that time, they don't have the power of social media or the digital world to create that movement. It's hardcore hustle.
Absolutely.
Hustle and networking.
Yeah, but very, very badass. Like your title of this, yeah, for sure. Shall we go on to number 2? Let's do it.
Oprah Winfrey.
Hey,
I mean, literally, she came from total poverty, teenage single mother in Mississippi, and look what she's done. She's got one of the largest entertainment empires in the world, and she's first female, first African American to top the Entertainment Weekly 101 influential people, first multi-billionaire, female and African, and black multi-billionaire in North America. And what I love about her is she pays it forward. She's got this this humility and humble, and she's got the Soul Sessions podcast, which is amazing, and that goes on tour and as well. And she's just a formidable woman that you just think if you sat there and had a cup of tea with her, she'd put her arms around you and you'd feel safe and looked after. And so it's that kind of not losing your roots.
Definitely. And you can't fake that either.
No, you can't fake that. You get a lot of people trying to fake it.
Yeah.
And tend to be, at one with the people and the peasants, and and loads kind of giving it the big. I'm doing all this charity work and giving back, and you just go, well,
philanthropists, but they're not really.
And you just think, are you, or is it just your name attached to something with everyone else doing everything for you, and you're not actually putting a penny in? It's sort of it's sort of with her, and she's she's become one of the most influential women in the world, which from where she started,
incredible.
You can draw some comparisons in the sense of look at your empire now, really, Emma. I mean, does that make you think, wow, I didn't think it was. Did you know? Do you have a suspicion that that's where you set your goals? Or
where I wanted to is where I kind of, again, at the beginning I said I like my history, and I always said from day one it wasn't a case of having this detailed business plan or looking day by day. I had 5-year plans like Stalin. So I had this big picture and the vision of where I wanted to be in 5 years. And then it was the next 5 years. And it was a very clear vision in my head. And after 5 years, I wanted it to be online community as well as the parties. And the next 5 years was to be out, not just the UK, to be global. And then the next 5 years, which we're hitting this year, is for the tech, to be this big digital tech and actually be a world and a brand. So it's sort of there, that's how I'm a big picture person. I'm not very good at details. Which I've got, an amazing COO who's come on board. He's come on board the last 4 years, and he's very good at detail. And that side of the business side of things. So, we're great. We're a great team, and that sort of without him, I needed him to basically do the vision that in my head, because I only tick a couple of boxes of what I'm able to do, and you've got to bring in everyone around you.
I think you need that. I think people. People need to be able to deal with the granular minutiae.
Yeah,
it's stuff like I would fail to do. Is that?
Have you always been really driven?
Yeah, I've always been very driven and very pokey. I've always poked and even when I was teeny, I said I sort of ran away from home from the minute I could walk, and my suitcases just got bigger. And if I didn't agree with something in the house, that's it, I'm out. Slammed the door, off I went. And I've sort of always been that, no, that's not right. And just question, and not really cared who it is I'm questioning, whether it's a teacher or it doesn't matter who they are. If I don't respect them, it's not being rude. I'll just question and go, no, that's not the right answer. And why is it? You know, my parents said I just questioned.
What did you study? Did you degree? Did you do anything?
Yeah, I did sports science, sport and exercise science. So I was a real maths and chemistry geek at school. Numbers is my thing. That's why actually in lockdown now, all I've been looking at is all the data and stats. I don't listen. I'm not interested in the opinions and, you know, what people are writing about. I just like looking at the numbers, and that's what I form my opinions on. So, and also it kind of on that front, on the number side, it's sort of being able to go this plus this equals that. Not necessarily a numbers thing, but in a business, well, if I want to get that, then I need this plus that, and then I can take that away because that's not working without being attached to that thing. It's like an analytical sort of way of doing, and relationships. If relationships haven't worked, I'm like, well, that didn't work. Rather than kind of, you know, sobbing for 3 months, he hates me. It's like, well, me plus him equals wrong. So, yeah, it's just always, but I was a real sports geek. I loved my sports as well. And that's sort of my passion now. It's what I do, still do different races and things. And it's my outlet. And yeah, so that's why I ended up doing the sports science side of things, but realized what I really loved was people and organizing all the events and the sports events. And I was the president of the first cocksock, which sounds rude, and when I do what I do now, I have to explain that cocktail society, which wasn't a push thing. It was sort of 2,000 people in a nightclub in Birmingham drinking out of plastic cups and cocktails in barrels. So so that was the bit I thought, right, I like people.
What club in Birmingham was it, out of interest?
Pulse. Is Pulse still there? Is it still there?
I don't know if it's still there. I was there for uni, and I loved it down there.
Uni?
Well, it was called UCE at the time. They've merged now, but I did economics down there. Had the time of my life, so Pulse rings a bell.
Birmingham's cool. It's a really cool.
It is.
Number one?
Dolly Parton.
Hey,
great,
amazing.
Actually, but you know, I grew up listening to country music. Your mum always had country music playing, and so I grew up listening and loved the stories. You know, all the songs. It's country music as a whole. It's just stories, and not this crap you get in a lot of music nowadays. It just makes no sense, and you can't hear what they're. So loved that, and then I've always been really interested with Dolly, and her. You know, she's one of 12 children, really, really poor. And some of her story, and I remember starting to look at that when I was at school, because you know she's got songs like "Coat of Many Colours," and you listen.
Oh, what a beautiful record!
And you realize, and it's all real. And then you look up her history, and you know of the coat being made by her mum and sewed with love, and it's just that, and what she did again, coming into a real man's world and the country music and music as a whole, and sort of breaking those barriers in the 50s, 60s, but keeping her femininity, keeping her self-respect, you know, not selling out.
Also keeping her publishing.
Yeah, she did with...
That's so rare.
Didn't she? She said no to Elvis Presley and refused to give up the rights for it.
Yeah.
And I think
that's a smart move.
Isn't it? To a lot
massively.
It taught a lot of, you know, especially women, that self-worth. Other artists, you hear people like Taylor Swift and, you know, Karen would talk about her a lot, who inspired, you know, and has helped them out in their careers. And then you've got, you know, like 9 to 5, her song 9 to 5, that's sort of the gender pay gaps anthem at the moment. And loads of her songs, you know, were, when you listen to the lyrics, were 40 years early. of you know, there's things being addressed at the moment that, you know, for the songs that came out in the 60s, but her business brain as well, her theme park, you know, everyone around her was telling her not to do it, and she plowed ahead and did it, and you know, it makes millions and it employs lots of her family, So she's got, and one thing I love about her is the privacy as well with her husband and that relationship. She's very much always had this sort of line of this is public and my public persona, and then that's private and you're not going near it. And
that's, I mean, you can understand that was probably manageable, in a sort of formative years of her career, but in the world of sort of, where the media has been in the last sort of 20 years, to be able to retain that privacy is incredible.
Yeah.
When you're as famous as her, and yet, I mean, I couldn't tell you what her husband looks like. No,
that thing, I've searched it a few times, and there's a couple of pictures, but they're maybe early years ones, so when they first got together and stuff. And she, but also she didn't conform. She broke the mold of how to look, and went, "This is how I'm looking."
Yeah.
And takes the piss out of herself. I've seen her live 3 times actually. And she's incredible, and the stories she tells, and the way it's just properly. You're always taking the piss out of herself, and about being cheap, looking cheap and blonde, and but yet she's just so on it.
She's always come across with humility. And has she ever had much had any hit pieces in the media? I don't recall ever seeing the media really going for Dolly Parton.
No, and that's the thing. I think that's what she's been so clever about, and it is keeping that. Because often when they media do go, it's private stuff. It's private lives, isn't it? And behaviour in private lives, or boyfriends, girlfriends, sort of, or what they put on social media and stuff, what they've tweeted out stupidly, that kind of stuff. And she just never, And
it kind of goes back to what we said about Oprah earlier. It's like, the press will jump on something if they think there's a chink in the armour, but if you're not, you can't fake it. And if you've been in the industry for that amount of time, you're that respected, you're that loved, then, people are on board. They're not interested in, I don't think the fans care, what she does, behind closed doors. They're not interested. They like what they're given by Dolly. And I think long may she reign.
Then she did Glastonbury, didn't she? And so many of my friends abused me for so long for being this country music nut and this Dolly fan. Was suddenly like, I remember them posting pictures up from Instagram stuff of them, Glastonbury with her, and say, "Oh, she's a legend." I'm like, "Oh, look how you've all turned."
Please, I was there first. This is what I've been saying.
So
that was an incredible performance as well. Like, just I think. If I was to do a top 5, I think she'd probably be my number 1. I think she's just an absolute legend in all ways. And just watching, a fair few documentaries on it, and seeing how she retained the publishing, and that was unheard of for a lot of artists, not just women back then, like just artists in general. So it was pioneering what she was doing, and oh my God. I mean, the fact that she retained the publishing on "I Will Always Love You," and I mean, I'm sure that
Elvis trying to get it, you just and you hear she said it was something in her that was like, no, they're not having it.
Yeah, because that wasn't a successful tune for Dolly Parton in the slightest, was it? It was just a kind of, I believe it's just an album track, but
and not many people know it was hers in the first place.
Yeah, I'm sure she's not struggling with a mortgage now on the back of that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, as we start to sort of wrap this up, so the podcast is it weekly?
It's weekly. So the last episode for series 1 came out about 2 weeks ago, and then we were about to start obviously recording series 2, but given we record it in a studio, and Emma's up in Manchester, so obviously it's tricky at the moment, but I think and we've got some sponsors actually lined up for sort of series 2, which is brilliant, and sort of series 1 we just sort of threw out there to see how it would go, and not much budget, and it's done well, so that's cool. So there's series 1 is all out there to listen to at the moment, and then when we launch series 2 it will be weekly basically.
And when we kind of get out of these strange times that we find ourselves, and some new normality resumes. Any plans to do sort of live shows with it?
Yeah, completely. Because we've said it from like recording the first one with the three of us. Actually, we joked that actually sort of the three of us have done some of the panel talks together that we do for KK, and that, you know, with sort of 60 to 100 people listening about, you know, sex and dating, and so, and they've worked really well. So it sort of we've said it would make complete sense actually just to do some of them live or do it as a show with the different guests on, because it's easy for the three of us, because it is that sort of a bit of a theatre. It's not sort of one person just asking a guest questions. There's actually very sort of topical debates that are interesting to do with everything going on in society when it comes to sort of sex and females and dating. Everything, you know, everything is sort of touched on. So yeah, like the live show, we'd love to do it, definitely.
What's next for the Empire? What else is going on at the moment for Kittens?
In the next couple of weeks, actually, we're launching our we've spent the last 2 years building a new sort of dating, basically the big world, the tech world. So as I said, Bumble meets Facebook. Yeah. So that's all launching in the next couple of weeks. We've kind of pushed it forward 2 months early and tested it in the first week of lockdown really quickly on a couple of thousand members to see what worked, and an app as well, a big chat app. The whole tech side is going 1,000 miles per hour, because it just sort of, especially at the moment, allows everyone to be part of it. And we're doing loads of virtual events every week. All our workshops, we've gone online, all the chats have gone online. So at the moment, that's what we're doing a big push on.
And where's the best place for people to find out all about that?
www.wearekk.com or www.killingkittens.com. They both feed into the same site, and it's got all the information on there, and how you can join up, all the event listings and stuff. So or just have a good Google. I mean, there aren't many companies called Killing Kittens, so it comes up the top of a Google search.
Well, if it's all right with you, we'll when we put this episode out, we'll tag you in all the social media stuff, so people that might not have known of Killing Kittens can go and have an explore as well. Yeah,
perfect. Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming on. Great top 5, Emma.
No worries.
And, good luck with the rest of the podcast.
Lovely. Thanks so much.
Thank you. See you
Cheers.
Later. Bye.
Oh yeah. I just want to quickly tell you about this magazine. It's called Pod Bible. Now, Pod Bible is the new essential guide to podcasts. It's put together alongside Spotify and Acast, and it's a one-stop shop to tell you all about the podcasts you maybe know about, but definitely about a load of the podcasts that you probably don't know about that we think you should know about. I mean, in the first edition, there's interviews with Adam Buxton, interviews with Craig Parkinson, there's features on Jade Adams, and there's just an abundance of information about so many exciting podcasts that are out there. Also, Spotify have given us these amazing little codes. So if you do get a print copy, you can just turn on your Spotify on your phone, scan the little code, and it just automatically opens up the podcast on your listening device. How good's that? If you haven't managed to get a print copy, then just go over to www.podbiblemag.com and read it online, because the digital version is all over there and it's all free. So every other month there'll be a new edition out. So go and have a look and support us on the social medias as well. podbiblemag.com. It's a drunken soiree in the within. Chris and Stu present Our Core Listing, the podcast.
Acast recommends podcasts we love.
The truth about the Haditha massacre has been covered up, but not anymore.
I know you know what happened.
They went into houses and killed women and children.
What are you thinking?
What a mess.
U.S. Marines murdered innocent civilians in cold blood.
And at the center of it all
is 25-year-old Sergeant Frank Wuderick.
And me. Murder in House 2. A new podcast from Crowd Network.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts, including Dan Snow's history hit, Red Handed, and the one you're listening to right now.